Hello everybody, welcome back to the Lausitzring for free practice 2. A little later than scheduled because we had some issues with the track this morning, which meant that all of the sessions were delayed, and we've actually only had about an hour and a half between the end of free practice 1 and the start of free practice 2, which is imminent, coming up in just a few minutes time. So this is a slightly shorter session than free practice 1, where we had 55 minutes of cars on track. This will be 10 minutes shorter, at 45-minute session for the cars, which gets underway at 4:45 p.m, just over 4 minutes time, and runs until past. And then, of course, their last chance to get the cars set, get the drivers tuned in and ready for qualifying, which is going to be bright and early tomorrow morning, because the race itself starting an hour earlier than normal, just tomorrow, not on Sunday, but normally we have a 1:30 start time for races. It's 12:30 tomorrow, which means that qualifying is at the crack of dawn. Well, by our standards anyway. Gonna have to drag Brian out of bed because it's at 9:05 that we get qualifying underway tomorrow morning. So my name's Chris Hartley. Brian Oliver is alongside me. We're in the commentary box at the top of the grandstand, underneath a couple of menacing clouds, a bit of a strong breeze that we've had all day long, but also some sunny patches here. It's actually a bit cooler than it was earlier on. It's just about 11.5 degrees, and the huge grandstand there, which we're on more or less the top of, casting a huge shadow over the start-finish line. So it's going to be an interesting session, this, but it looks like it's probably going to stay dry, I think.
We can hope so. I'm just getting ready for bed. It's going to be an early start tomorrow. It'll probably be dark by the time we leave for here. Yes, it feels as though we have had some spits of rain in the air, but it feels like, famous last words, it's going to hold off as we look at the current points championship standings. Jordan Pepper and Ian Chan-Nguyen and Lucas Albert. Jordan Pepper leading the way, 3 points clear of the other three.
Yeah, 3 points between the top 4. That is all. The driver that leads the championship, Jordan Pepper, didn't get a win at Lausitzring, but an excellent weekend, 2nd and 4th in the 2 races. Got points for qualifying 2nd in both of the sessions, ahead of the races as well. Ian Chan-Nguyen was the first ever Turkish driver to win in the DTM on Sunday, following his 7th place finish on Saturday. Lucas Auer got his first win for more than 2 years by winning on Saturday, but with the success balanced on the car in a lower grid position for Sunday, he could only manage 10th place in that 2nd race. So he's 3rd in the championship. Jules Gounod, who was quickest in free practice 1, was on the podium at Lausitzring as well. Had a 2nd and a 5th there. He's 4th in the championship. And then Thomas Preining and Maro Engel, 5th and 6th in the championship, both had a podium finish apiece as well. Coming here to the Lausitzring, the Manufacturers' Championship is being led by Mercedes, 67 points for them, but only 3 points clear of Porsche on 64. Lamborghini are 3rd on 50 points. Manthey lead the championship for the teams on 63 points, 12 points clear of Winward Racing, helped by a 1st and a 3rd place finish for the 2 of their drivers on Sunday at Lausitzring. And TGI Lamborghini team by Grasser Racing team are 3rd on 48 points in the championship. For the pit stop challenge, for the fastest pit stops in each race, there are 3 points awarded to the team with the fastest pit stop, 2 for the team that's 2nd and 1 for the team that's 3rd. And Schubert Motorsport, who just missed out on the title last year, they were the team's championship winners last year, but were close to winning the pit stop challenge in 2024 as well. But they lead it after 1 weekend. 5 points for them, 3 points for Landgraf, who had the quickest pit stop of the weekend on the Saturday, and Manthey are 3rd on 2 points. We've got a rookie championship this year as well, and after his best ever weekend in the DTM, I say best ever, it's only his, of course, 2nd season of the DTM, the start of it, Ben Durr with maximum points in terms of the Rookie of the Year standings, getting more points than the other rookies. You get points in qualifying for that as well, not just 3, 2 and 1, but 10 points if you qualify as the fastest rookie, 9 points for qualifying 2nd, and then points for the race as well. 25 points for a win for the top rookie, 20 for 2nd, 16 for 3rd. Same point scoring system as for the main race. So Ben Durr has got 70 points. Maurice Schuring has got 57. And 3rd on 49 is the youngest ever DTM driver, Tom Callender. There is another very rapid Mercedes driver. Quickest in free practice one, Jules Gounon. He went out right at the end of the session. He was literally the last driver to cross the line after pretty much everybody else had come back in off their slowing down laps. He banged in a very competitive 1 minute 20.623 in the Winwood Racing Team Manfilter backed car. So he was 12 thousandths of a second quicker than Thierry Vermeulen in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. He was second. Lucas Auer was third in the Landgraf Mercedes, and he was only 41 thousandths of a second away from the fastest time in the session. Jack Aitken was fourth in the other Emil, or one of the other Emil Frey Racing Ferraris. Fifth was Maurice Schuring in the Manthey Junior Team Porsche, the third Porsche on the grid for the team this year. Thomas Preining was sixth, Ricardo Feller was seventh, Anjan Guwen was eighth, Maro Engel was ninth, and Arjun Maini was 10th. Best of the Lamborghinis was Mirko Bortolotti, the reigning champion, back in 12th place. And those lap times, Ryan, very comparable with the sorts of lap times we were seeing in qualifying sessions and certainly in free practice last year, even though the track temperature today is a lot cooler than it was on the Friday of the 2024 event, where it was up to 23, 24 degrees out there.
Yes, and of course we're running on a new tyre for this year. Pirelli bringing a new compound to the series. But what really was very striking about the free practice session this morning was that the entire field, that is every one of the 24 cars, were covered by just a fraction over 1 second. 1.079 was the gap covering the whole of the field, and on a circuit that is nearly 3.5 kilometres around. That shows how close it is and how every thousandth counts. Yeah,
it was really impressive, wasn't it? A 120.6 we've had already. Last year in free practice one, Thomas Preining did a 120.78. And pole position on Saturday last year by Kelvin van der Linde was a 120.7. Pole position on Sunday by Thomas Preining last year was a 120.8. So we're already in that benchmark. We'll definitely beat last year's free practice 2 quickest time set by Anjan Guwen, because that was a 1 minute 35 because it rained in the afternoon here last year, despite being very warm in the morning free practice session. And just to remind you of tyres, so as Brian said, new Pirelli compound this year, but for some circuits you get 3 sets of new tyres to run across Saturday and Sunday, 2 qualifying to 2 races. And at some circuits you get 4 sets. This is one of the circuits where you only get 3 sets. So 3 sets of new tyres have got to last 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races. For free practice on Fridays, you get 2 sets of nominated tyres. That's tyres that come from a previous event, and 1 set of new tyres that you can use somewhere in those 2 free practice sessions, but you can only use those tyres in free practice. You can't save them and carry them over as an extra set for qualifying and race day on Saturday and Sunday.
Also, this year, apart from the tyres, we have a new synthetic fuel as well, developed with Corriton, and the DTM Pro Climate Fuel reduces CO2 emissions by about 75%, so really, really important. The one thing about the fuel is a slightly higher consumption. So just to cover off a conversation that I was aware of after Oschersleben, the races are 5 minutes shorter this year, and it's not, the 5 minutes shorter is not for environmental reasons. The 5 minutes shorter is because the consumption is higher on the new synthetic fuel. So it means that the races 5 minutes shorter for both of the races, unless of course we get a safety car, and then there is the potential for the race to be extended by up to 3 laps.
That's right, yeah, 55 minutes plus a lap rather than what we had last year, 60 minutes plus a lap. So cars making their way around, building up speed, and again, not necessarily just looking at fastest lap times in this session, because they will try some longer runs as well to see how the cars and the tyres in particular hold up, how the setup holds up. But no doubt there'll be 1 or 2 sort of dummy qualifying runs in this session as well, because then basically we are at the end of this session, we're pretty much 7 minutes away from finding out who's on pole position, because we get 20-minute qualifying sessions, but the first 12 or 13 minutes of that are just usually cars going out, drivers going out, if it's dry that is, and getting heat into the tyres, coming back into the pits after a couple of recce laps, letting that heat soak through to the tyres, and then they go out for 2 or 3 laps at the end of the session for the last few minutes. So really qualifying almost becomes sort of a 6-7 minute long session. That's it, isn't it?
Well, one day somebody is going to find a way of doing this differently, and we're going to get a pole lap set in the first 5 minutes. I mean, we look at the cars that struggle to get heat into the tyres, especially the BMW, which has been the common complaint over the last couple of years of generating heat into the tyres. And we saw it. It's a wild ride with Jordan Pepper.
He's hanging on to that, isn't he?
We saw it with Kelvin van der Linde last year, that he was, in some sessions, actually going out during qualifying and staying out when everybody else was sat doing the heat soak in the pits. Just trying a different strategy. But yes, the way things are with no tyre warmers and with the track evolving as the session goes on, potentially getting warmer but more rubber getting laid down, then the last car across the line is often in the best position for a pole position, which means we have that 15 minutes or so of not a lot going on in the mornings. We just think that maybe for next year they should consider a 5-minute qualifying session, but hey, what do I know?
It's just because you want another 10 minutes in bed.
There is that too.
Yeah.
There is that, yes.
Right, Luca Exler crosses the line, goes quickest for now, 1:22.476. Second one in his shot there, Luca, the former multiple TCR touring car champion in the Lamborghini. Here's more assuring who went well in the first session. The young Dutch driver about to sprint across the line. Is this going to be a decent lap? Looks like it's fairly good. Yeah, 1:22.8. Ben Durr has done the absolute best first sector time so far, and he's midway round his lap in the McLaren, and right on cue he comes through the shot. So Ben Durr, who got his best result ever in the DTM on Saturday at Oschersleben with an 11th, and then went even better, an 8th place finish. He also beat the reigning champion Mirko Bortolotti and looked really good, and he's continued that form so far this weekend. He's been there or thereabouts in the free practice session this morning, just outside the top 10. He's about to cross the line now and registers the fastest time of the session, 1:21.955. Not going as quick as we were well, I was going to say this morning, but it was this afternoon at lunchtime when we eventually got to free practice 1. But we are still going fairly rapidly. We've got a McLaren 1-2 as well, because Timo Glock has gone second. If you weren't watching free practice 2, just to let you know, Timo is not in the car, which was giving him all sorts of strife at Oschersleben. So they took the car back to the factory. At Woking in England, they replaced the rear subframe. They couldn't find anything wrong with the front of the car, which had already had the front end replaced after a knock last year. It was the car, Timo Glock was driving the car that Clement Schmidt raced last year. Ben Durr's got a new car for this year, and Timo Glock's car was just all over the place. They just couldn't work out what the problem with it was. They even went as far as at the Lausitzring test, the private test here a couple of weeks ago, they were allowed to swap cars just to try and prove the points, and they did prove that that other car has definitely got an issue, because Timo Glock hopped into Ben Durr's car and went immediately half a second quicker. Ben Durr went into Timo Glock's car, and guess what? He went half a second slower. So what they've done is brought in a different car. It's not a new car, because Brian mentioned this morning they're not available at the moment. So Timo's actually racing Ben Durr's car from last year, which had been set aside for Nordschleifer Racing, and which did get a class win with Ben as one of the drivers a couple of weeks ago around the Nordschleifer, and they've had to adapt it back to the settings and, of course, different tyres that they use for this session, which has not been the work of a moment, but the team's done an excellent job. Timo was much more on it earlier on than we certainly saw at any point during the Oschersleben weekend.
And when you see that the whole field is covered by a fraction over a second, you realise that if you're losing half a second or more in a lap, that really is the difference between maybe the front or the mid-pack. Ben Durr and Timo Glock were trading the fastest times, but now Ben Durr back at the top at 1:21.302. Ricardo Feller in the car that he won, confirmed the car that he won the 2021 GT Master Champion in. Come on, Eileen, in second. And Thierry Vermeulen in third, 1:21.8. In the first session, the same keep saying this morning, we're used to that. In FP1 this afternoon, we saw a lot of drivers exploring the limits, a lot of running across the gravel and onto the grass. That's all part of the whole FP1 procedure. A bit more, I think, of the dialing in, getting ready for quali now, because we are effectively 35.5 minutes or so away from quali in terms of track time. So this is the opportunity to get the cars dialed in, get a setup, get the tyres where you want them to be, ready for tomorrow. It's Riccardo Fella with a purple in Sector 1, the quickest of anybody, a personal best in Sector 2, and he'll come out across the line. Thierry Vermeulen in P2, but Riccardo Fella will be crossing the line at any moment now, and he jumps up to P2, or stays in P2 himself.
Yeah, Vermeulen went second. Fella just a bit behind him on the track, went slightly quicker. Ben Green into the top 10 as well in the third Ferrari. The British driver kicks up the dust on the way out of turn 2. He's one of our onboard camera operators this weekend, as is Arjun Maini, who the long gap that we had waiting for free practice 1 to happen with his teammate at HRT and a mechanic were having a game of football in the behind the garages earlier on.
You joined in, if I remember rightly.
I did join in, yeah. I'm a keen, very bad footballer, and yeah, they had one mechanic in goal. I had a couple of drums of oil for goalposts, and Arjun Maini versus Fabio Scherer, and you know, the ball, they lost control of the ball. It popped up to me. I tried a half volley and I hit the post. Almost a moment of glory.
Oh. Okay, yeah. You would have stayed there all day if you had the chance, wouldn't you?
I would have been dining out on that for years.
Look at these purples. Vermeulen, quickest of anybody in Sector 2. Riccardo Fella, quickest of anybody in Sector 1. This is going to be good for Thierry Vermeulen. So he was in 4th, 121.460. Right, that's been eclipsed now, but here he comes across the line. This is surely going to be an improvement for Thierry Vermeulen. Across the line he comes up to 2nd place. Consistently at the top, the quickest of anybody in Sector 2 is now Luca Engstler.
Riccardo Fella goes quickest of all. He's just behind Thierry Vermeulen on track. The silver and red Audi run by Landa Motorsport comes through his shot. 121.082. Not as quick as we were in free practice 1 yet, but he's got a good record round here, Riccardo Fella. He was on the podium last year and he had a pretty torrid 2024. He just couldn't get to grips with his Audi last year, particularly with the brakes on the car. The year before, do you remember the fantastic duel between Mirko Bortolotti on a very hot day and glued to his rear wing almost through the entire race was Riccardo Fella. I mean, they were split by millimetres, centimetres at most. For lap after lap after lap, Riccardo just could not find a way through, just couldn't get enough power on the straights to get past. So he finished 2nd here in 2023, but it was a terrific battle, wasn't it?
Was that really 2 years ago? How time flies. I remember they were both absolutely exhausted at the end of that, weren't they? And he spent the whole race with the heat of Mirko Bortolotti's exhaust in his face, and it was a long, arduous journey, that one, and he deserved points just for doing that. Thierry Vermeulen out onto the pit straight, onto the tri-oval once again. Great view there at this circuit that once hosted IndyCar, and P2 for Vermeulen, so he stays there. 121.158, still times a little bit off what we saw this morning.
Yeah, they're doing longer runs, aren't they? So I think they're into the 5th laps now, Vermeulen and Fella, but the consistency is excellent, isn't it, from both drivers? And yeah, 121.158, getting slightly quicker and slightly quicker and slightly quicker. The tyres are slightly older, but the car is slightly lighter as it disposes of some fuel. Luca Engstler pops himself up into, briefly, 5th place. That becomes 6th because Maro Engel has just popped himself up to 4th position as the top Mercedes at the moment with a 121.314. We've got less than 9/10 of a second between the top 12. We had Arjun Maini going well earlier. He was 5th for a long time in free practice 1. He slipped back to 10th in the end. But in this session, it's his teammate, the Swiss driver Fabio Scherer, the new livery on the car. That's the quicker of the 2 Mustangs. He was 12th. He's down to 13th now because Marco Wittmann has just popped himself up into 5th place in the BMW. The BMWs should go better around here than Oschersleben. Again, it's a long wheelbase car, not best suited necessarily to the confines of Oschersleben, although Marco had a pretty solid weekend. But here, it ought to go well, and Marco Wittmann 5th quickest at the moment.
So a great view down the pit straight, heading in towards turn 1, and Vermeulen, I say he's purple in Sector 2. I don't know how much notice we should take at the times. Maro Engel's not been anywhere too prolific in the first session. I'm in P9, so kind of somewhere midfield, but yeah, personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. They get nice and wide as they come out to turn 11 onto the tri-oval, and then it's full beans all around the final couple of turns and onto the pit straight. And Maro Engel, that's just shown what he can do. He's up to 2nd place at 121.013. Ricardo Feller, the only driver now into the 120s, 120.991, so we're about 3/10 away from the quickest time in FP1.
Jordan Pepper on a personal best lap here, personal best in sector 1 and sector 2, hence the green lines underneath his name. What about sector 3? It's not quite as good. Overall, that's not a bad lap, puts him 9th quickest. So Ricardo Feller quickest in the Audi, Maro Engel in the Mercedes 2nd, Thierry Vermeulen in the Ferrari 3rd, Ben Do's gone into the pits now, 4th in the McLaren, Jules Gounon 5th, Thomas Preining, the 2023 champion, has just popped himself up to 6th, the winner here last year, so he's just on 121.377. We've got 4 drivers on the 121.3s. Lucas Auer is just on the absolute best middle sector. Sector 1 takes you through to the entry to turn 6. Sector 2, the middle sector, is turn 6 and 7 essentially. It's the shorter sector, and turn 8 takes in, sorry, sector 3 takes in turn 8, turn 9, the twisty right-left sequence at turn 11. Then they run through this corner, they're banking out onto the start-finish straight, approaching 250 kilometres an hour. Over the line goes Lucas Auer, and 3rd quickest, 121.058. And that means, oh, Maro Engel right behind him has got even quicker, 120.903. I was about to say there's only half a tenth between the top 3, but there's not anymore, because Maro's just put in a very good lap.
Good job from Max Powell, actually, MP6. This is his home circuit. He comes from Dresden, which is about 40 minutes up the road. So he's looking solid. He's done a fair few laps here. Having said that, he's bumped down to 8th place. Jules Gounon is up to 4th. That was the man who stole the headlines this morning. Maro Engel's 120.903. Get the feeling that's going to be beaten fairly soon. Here comes Thomas Preining. Personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2. So across the line comes Thomas Preining. And where will this elevate him to? That'll be P6. As for Thomas Preining, that's a 121.194. There is the car that is currently in 2nd place. I don't think he's going to improve on that on this lap, Ricardo Feller.
Yeah, he's doing a long stint here, isn't he, Ricardo? And coming through over the line now, and he goes top of the times. 120.8, mega final sector. That's why, absolute best final sector.
Yes, that final sector just got us all napping there, didn't it? It was looked like a fairly average lap, but he really dialed it in there. Rene Rast, we can see, quickest of anybody in Sector 1, so he's in 8th place at the moment, so he'll be looking to improve on that. Still into Sector 3 at the moment. So the BMW, hopefully for him, coming alive. We ride on board with Jules Gounon into that wide final corner. Get a good launch out of there, then you've got that really long straight. Great overtaking opportunity during the race. So here comes Jules Gounon. He was in 6th place, and he goes fastest, a 120.791. Eclipsed what we said Rene Rast was coming, didn't we? A 120.728. So we're getting close to the times we had in FP1. We're about a 10th off the quickest time from FP1. Local guy, Max Powell, now into Sector 3 as well. A personal best in Sector 1. Sector 2 was okay, a 20.7 in Sector 2, but in Sector 3 he comes now, so he'll be looking to improve on that 7th place. So out across the line comes Max Powell. Is he going to improve on 7th? Yes, he does. He bumps up 1 position to 6th.
Didn't have a great weekend on his home circuit here last year, Max Powell. 12th place was his best result. More assuring he's on a personal best lap here. The orange Porsche comes over the line, but it's only 18th place, only a second away. That puts you in 18th place. So Rene Rast quickest, 120.7, 63 thousandths quicker than Jules Gounon in the Mercedes. So BMW from Mercedes. From Audi, Ricardo Feller has gone into the pits now after a long run of a 10-lap run he did there. He's just popped down to 4th because Maro Engel has improved his time with a 120.823. Maro has never had a really good weekend in DTM here. His best result at this circuit in the DTM is an 8th place finish back in 2009. Last year he finished 13th, and that was his 2nd best finish around this particular circuit. Max Powell has just done the absolute best 1st sector, and Thierry Vermeulen has just done the absolute best 2nd sector, and they're pretty close together on track. So Vermeulen is just ahead of the car you're watching at the moment. The Lamborghini is Max Powell there, and about 5 seconds ahead of him on the track. Sorry, 5 seconds behind him on the track is Thierry Vermeulen. So we'll get Vermeulen maybe just in the background. Paolo is on a really good lap here, the personal best in the middle sector as well. Vermeulen is behind him, so they're both going to be up there. Powell comes through, now goes quickest of all, 120.6, but here is Vermeulen over the line. He comes now and doesn't improve in the last sector, so all looking good to the last sector. But Max Powell, his home circuit, top of the times, 120. 128.676, which is a really comparable lap time with the Jules Gounon lap time from free practice 1. That was a 120.623, so it's only half a tenth slower than that.
About 500ths, isn't it? Yes, to repeat what you just said. There's Lucas Auer once again. He's just looking very eager, very dialed in. He looked good in FP1. He's looking good there in FP2. Just looking very confident. Jack Aitken is trying to improve a little bit now. He was in 21st place, so personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. So we're monitoring this. We've got 25 minutes remaining of this session. Of course, it's not all about the times. We keep saying that, but having said that, Lucas Auer quickest of anybody in that Sector 1, but that is eclipsed by Mauro Engel, who now goes to quickest of anybody in Sector 1.
Yeah, Jack Aitken 12th. He's running a bit out of sync with everybody else. He was one of the last drivers out there in this second session, so that's his first proper flying lap, really. He's only done 7 laps, whereas most of them have done between 10 and 13 laps, so he's a little bit behind. The Mauro Engel has lost a bit of time in the middle sector, but he did do an absolute best first sector, so Mauro potentially on a charge. That, though, has been eclipsed. Jack Aitken in the Ferrari has pulled the pin. He's done the absolute best first sector, 26.772 seconds in the Ferrari, which is just making its way through turn 7. I look out of the window of the commentary box, I can see he's got a fairly clear track ahead of him. There is one car which is about to pull out of his way, and does so, doesn't get into his way at all, and through he goes at Luca Engstler in the Lamborghini, so it doesn't slow him up at all, and he's still able to get a personal best second sector. Mauro Engel at 4th. Lucas Auer is quickest with a 120.620. That's the quickest lap time of the day so far, 3,000ths quicker than the best lap time of Jules Gounon from free practice 1, but this one from the Ferrari of Jack Aitken might be even quicker. So Jack comes out of the final turn, just bury the throttle, hang on to it, and head over the line now is his job. Through comes the Ferrari, and the British driver goes through 6th quickest, so it's a big improvement, but he's not quite there yet in terms of the fastest times in the session. That said, he's only 0.18 seconds away from the quickest time of Lucas Auer.
What's been really good to see is most of the brands getting to the top of the timing screens at some point or the other. The BOP certainly feels like it's pretty good here this weekend. We had that 1 second, just over 1 second, covering the entire pack in FP1. And here in FP2, we're seeing different brands to the top, which is exactly what we want to see. That brings on good racing. Jack Aitken clearly isn't done yet. Purple in Sector 1. He'll try hard in Sector 2, but in Sector 3 he wants to get nailed here, isn't it? I think he fancies a little go at the top of the screen as well.
Yeah, the winner of the charity run, 2 laps around the circuit last night, and he said, I've got to make the most of this. It might be my only win of the weekend. I'm not so sure, Jack. I'm not so sure. He's on fine form. This is where he got his first ever win in DTM. That was the same weekend as the Riccardo Fellenberco Bortolotti battle. That was on the Sunday. On the Saturday, Jack got victory here in really, really hot conditions. Even these super fit drivers were struggling as they got out of the car after just over an hour's racing. Just a bit of time in the middle sector, but it's going to be another decent lap from the Ferrari driver. The 296 crosses the line, goes slightly quicker, 5th place in the session. Top 3, Auer, Powell and Rast are all in the pits at the moment. Engel is 4th, Aitken is 5th, and Gounon is 6th. So you mentioned BOP. I've done a bit of homework on balance of performance and how things compare to last year. The weights of the cars, first of all. The Audi has got 50 kilograms of BOP ballast. That's 10 kilograms heavier than last year. The BMW, interestingly, has got, and you don't see this very often, 0 kilograms of BOP weight on the car. Last year it had 30 kilograms, so the BMWs are a fair bit lighter than they were here last year. That might be as a result of perhaps the difficulties that they had at Oschersleben. The Ferrari's actually 35 kilograms of BOP weight. Well, it had 35 kilograms on the Saturday last year, but only 25 on the Sunday. Here's one. The Lamborghinis have got 105 kilograms of BOP weight on the cars. They had 80 last year, so an enormous amount on them, and they're 25 kilograms heavier than last year. The McLaren, 10 kilograms lighter than it was last year, 30 kilograms of BOP weight rather than 40. The Mercedes are heavier. They are 55 kilograms of weight rather than 30 kilograms from last year. And the Porsches are heavier as well, by 20 kilograms, 75 for them, 55 last year. So a lot of them have gone up in weight, but the BMWs have gone down. And René Rast is, what, third at the moment and looking pretty sharp.
And of course, Arjen Nguyen, when it comes to the race tomorrow, will have an extra 20 kilos on board as well, on account of the fact that he won the last race at Oschersleben. So he won't have to carry that in qualifying, but he will have to carry that in the race. So that's going to be quite significant.
Yeah. So he's going to be, you know, BOP weight plus his success weight, 95 kilograms essentially that he's lugging around, rather than 55 last year. It's a fair old difference, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's like carrying a fairly lightweight passenger, really, isn't it? Jules Gounon, I'll have an extra 10 kilograms, certainly one of my weight anyway. And Thomas Preining will carry an extra 5 kilograms in the race, and that is the success ballast, and that's just for the race tomorrow. And then whoever finishes 1, 2, 3 tomorrow will carry their success ballast instead on Sunday. You can see how close to the wall Arjen Nguyen's getting. He got very close to it in FP1. He even gave it a little bit of a scrape with the mirror. No harm done, and just seeing how far he can get without actually making full contact with the wall.
Do you know what I'd do if I was man-tight? I would take that mirror off, I'd save it,
bumper on.
I'd save it, I'd stick it back on for the Lausitzring.
Yeah,
because he might get another scratch there, same side, another wall. In terms of air restrictors, the Audi has got a 236.5 mil restrictors on for balance and performance, and it had 36s last year, so the restrictor is 0.5 millimetre bigger, which means a bit more airflow, which means a bit more power. The Lamborghini's got a 50 mil restrictor on it, had a 51 last year, so that's got a bit less airflow. And the other one that's different is the Porsche's 39.5 mil restrictors rather than 38, so they've got a bit more air coming in, and that effectively mixes with the fuel, gives you a bit more power. The turbo-powered cars are the BMW, the Ferrari, and the Mercedes, which has a twin turbo, and it's very complicated the way it's worked out, but it's based on the ratio of boost that you get at different rev ranges, from low revs to high revs. But the range is a little bit higher on the BMW than it was last year. It went up to 2.69 last year as the top range, 2.66 last year, it's 2.69 this year. The Ferrari's got a bit less, 2.48 as the top range rather than 2.5. And the McLaren is the same. So there have been certainly some tweaks. The BMW probably a bit more favourable this year, the BOP, than it's got than last.
If you're ever bored for a while, it's worth checking out how the BOP is worked out. This is not done on the back of a fag packet. If you go and check out it's an SRO rated BOP, you look at the formula, well, I don't understand it. I mean, it is really complicated. This is not just somebody making it up as they go along, and it's really well done. It's very complicated the way they work it out, and it's well worth exploring if you've got a few moments to go online and check out how they work out the BOP. I won't say you'll be able to understand it. And Timo Glock just sees, is that Lucas Auer come past him, or is that Tom Callender? Certainly one of the Landgraf cars coming past him like a rocket. On board with Timo Glock there as well.
Tom Callender.
Yeah, it was Tom Callender, was it? Okay, yeah, because steaming past him, they had a lovely view of Timo Glock just looking up from him, from the footwell.
Isn't he? I think that's why. Yeah, so Timo coming in. They're okay at the moment, though. 14th, only 0.8 of a second off the pace. Here's a replay of a smoking set of rear tyres.
Lights him up.
Yeah, there you go. And deliberately so, René Rast, lighting the tarmac up there, leaving a trail of rubber, and a trail of rubber, in dry conditions at least, is nice and sticky, nice and grippy, and the reason for that is to get a better launch getting out of the pit stops when we get to the race tomorrow. And we should explain as well, I know I'm always aware that some people are perhaps new to GT racing, new to the DTM, and they're like, what on earth are you talking about? Balance of performance, what is that? I know lots of you know all about it, but for those that don't, balance of performance, you've got totally different types of car here, and we've got more different brands in this championship than we've had since 1987. They've all got different amounts of power, different engine sizes. The BMW, for example, was a 3-litre engine, where something like the Audi has got a 5.2-litre engine. Some of them have got turbos, some of them normally aspirated. The weights of the cars are different, have slightly different amounts of horsepower, and around different circuits, right on board that, they would all be at totally different speeds. So the balance of performance tries to equalise things between different types of car, different types of GT3 car, to make sure that they're all evenly matched, or as evenly matched as possible, around different racetracks, so they can change the weight of the cars, the airflow through the carburetor can go up and down to increase or decrease the amount of power. They can change the boost on the car for those with turbos like the Ferraris, the BMWs and the McLarens. They can change things like the rear wing settings on the cars as well. So all these things to equalise things, and it's usually, and it's based on data from previous years, data from this year, from other tracks, but it can change over the course of a weekend as well. If the guys that set the BOP think it's a bit too, you know, this particular brand's going a bit too quickly compared to what it should be, then they can tweak it over the course of a weekend as well. We do often get 2, maybe even 3 different sets of balance performance adjustments over a weekend.
And the proof that it works is the fact that currently the top 17 are covered by less than a second. The entire field of 24 cars covered by 1.8. We're not necessarily in qualifying mode either. There are some teams that are going through programs that are on long runs, and so we're not going full beans at the moment. In quali tomorrow, I think it could potentially be one of the tightest grids we've seen in a very, very long time, if not ever, in DTM, because it really has been in FP1 and is continuing to be in this session very, very close. As we look at Nicola Bart, currently in 23rd place, 1.653 adrift of Lucas Auer. Hasn't improved the grey strips in sectors 1 and 2, says that he has neither set a personal best or indeed an overall best, and sector 3 crosses the line, the green in the box indicating he has set a personal best in sector 3, but he stays down in 23rd place.
Absolutely, we had the closest ever finish in DTM history at this track in 2019. Crikey, that doesn't seem that long ago, but it's already 6 years ago. Nico Müller and René Rast, 0.089 seconds between them as they cross the finish line. We've had some mighty close qualifying sessions and races here in the past as well. Here is one of the come to you Aston Martins then, the Belgian team, 2 Belgian drivers. Nicola Bert behind the wheel at the moment of the Vantage. The team ran Aston Martins for the first time in GT3 racing last year. This is their first season in the DTM this year, and in previous years they've come up through running cars in the Fun Cup and then up through TCR racing, running Audis in the TCR Championship. So they're still a relatively new team to this kind of racing, certainly new to the nuances of DTM, but they're a rapidly improving team, and great to see Aston Martin back in the Championship. The first season that the Aston Martins in the GT3 era have been in the DTM. They've had 1 season in the Class 1 era of Aston Martins. Nicola Bert himself is only 23 years of age. He's the son of Jean-Michel Bert, who is the team principal. He's been an academy driver for Aston Martin for a number of years as well.
Basically, comparing to your sector before, you miss 3 tenths in each sector.
So feedback for the driver, this is where you're missing out, and this part of the lap or that part of the lap, all useful for the drivers to know while they're out there. They'll also, of course, get to look at that data, as he is now when they get back in the garage. He's not watching Netflix, he's having a look at the data brake, and this is really detailed, the data they get as well these days from the cars, isn't it? It's where they're braking compared to where they should be braking, how long they're on the brake pedal for, how hard they're pressing the brake pedal, sector times, top speeds, where you're losing out. Absorb all of that, put it into the computer brain, the supercomputer brain, get back out there and go and find a couple of tenths of a second.
Yeah, there's no hanging about here, is there? So he's now digested that information. You actually see him almost processing it, can't you? And now he's getting ready. Give the eyes a rub, get ready, and in a moment he's going to be waved out the garage, and he's going to have to put all that he has just learnt looking at the iPad and listening to what his engineer has said. He's going to have to put that into good use and see if he can find those tenths in each sector. So it is quite an intense session. It's not like just hopping in, hopping out, having an ice cream and then getting back in again. It is a hard work sector, and this is, as I've said already, the final sector, final session before qualifying. In 11.5 minutes, this session will be over, and then the next time they're on the track, it will be for grid positions.
Tom Callender's doing all right, isn't he? 12th place at the moment, and remember, this is the youngest ever ADAC GT Masters champion from last year. and he's now the youngest ever DTM driver in history. 17 years of age, and he was only 17 at the end of March as well, just before the season started. So he's a young 17, comes from Kirchen. As Brian mentioned in free practice one, he's managed by Bernd Schneider, the 5-time champion, 43-time race winner. He's a Mercedes Junior driver, as you can imagine, and doing an excellent job. He raced with Elias Zeppelin last year for Landgraf. He got 5 wins, 4 other podium finishes on the way to the GT Masters title. He had a run at the start of this year as well at Portimao in the 6-hour endurance race there with Landgraf in a Mercedes. Finished second there as well, which is pretty impressive. He's not going quite so quickly on this lap. And it's only 3 years ago he was racing in the German Kart Racing Championship. He was runner-up in the German Junior Kart Racing Championship, not even a senior level, junior level, just 3 years ago. Former Kart Masters champion. Did a season in French Formula 4, which wasn't that successful in 2023. Had a couple of races in Italian Formula 4 as well. Hopped into GTs for the first time last year and, blimey, won the championship. Very impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, and his 2 compatriots in the Formula 4, French Formula 4 2 years ago, Finn Wiebelhaus and Max Rice, they're also coming through the ranks in GT Masters. So all 3 of them making the step into German GT3 racing. I would just say the driver that Tom Callender was with last year, winning the GT Masters, Elias Seppänen, really hope that we are going to see him. He won the Road to DTM Championship. Would love to see him behind the wheel of one of these cars. I think they just couldn't get all the ducks in a row in time, but hopefully we're going to see him in this series before too long, because he's a truly talented driver, truly talented Sector 2. Look at that from Ben Dor up to P6. So the McLaren certainly looking very racy and the quickest of anybody in Sector 2. So good job there from Ben Dor.
Yeah, it looks like a different driver this year, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge ass last year coming in as a very young driver into this hotbed of talent. They've all won championships elsewhere. They've all got years, well, most of them got years of experience. They've won races in DTM. I mean, on the grid this year, you've got 14 of the 24 drivers have been a race winner, multiple race winner in most cases, in the DTM. It's a competitive hotbed. There's a new team bringing in the McLaren, and you could see the progress last year with the pit stops in particular. They got better and better with the pit stops, and Ben got better and better, and had a few shining moments. Of course, had some down moments as well. But this year, new car for him, and he just looks like he's not just stepped up a level, Brian. It's just stepped up about 3 levels. 6th quickest here, and it's starting to be unsurprising to see him up there pushing in and around the top 6, the top 10. This is the driver that had a best result last year, 14th place at the Nürburgring, 1 top 10 qualifying, 23rd in the championship, and here he is at the start of the 2025 season, up there in the championship points, already a top 10 finish, and he's just got to the top of the times in free practice 2 with the quickest lap of the entire day so far. That includes free practice 1, 1:20.606.
I think Jules Gounon might have something to say about this as well. Out of the pit straight he comes. Jules Gounon eclipses him. So the glory of a Ben Dor didn't last very long. Jules Gounon come to destroy his dreams once again. To remind you, Jules was the quickest in the first session.
I don't know what the hell is wrong with the car. It's like super nervous somehow. On the straight I can't even warm the tires.
That's such a shame to hear, isn't it?
And that's a big step up from the car he was driving. Imagine what a nightmare that car was, but it's super nervous. Now, if Timo Glock doesn't know what's wrong with the car, you're struggling, because he's got so much experience and in developing cars as well. Part of the reason he's been brought into the team. If it's nervous on the straight and he can't get any heat in the tyres, that's a real worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's still 15th quickest, so it's not, I mean, it's certainly not the disaster at Oschersleben, but then his teammate has just done a 1:20.606, which is 8/10 quicker. No. 8/10 quicker.
And it's a different car to what he had in Oschersleben. So what is the problem there? And you feel for him, because we did have cause for optimism coming in to today. Certainly he had cause for optimism after that test, the back-to-back test he had done. He knew he wasn't going to be potentially challenging at the very top, but he thought it was going to be a big step forwards. But that was certainly not the radio message he wanted to hear. Jules Gounon just cementing his position at the top at 1:20.595. But to remind you, Timo Glock's teammate Ben-Dor currently second with the second quickest time of the entire day.
So we've got 3 Mercedes in the top 6. Jules Gounon is quickest. Lucas Auer, who's third. Maro Engel, who is currently in 6th place. We've got the McLaren of Bender, second quickest. The Lamborghini of Max Powell, 4th quickest. The best Ferrari, Jack Aitken, currently is 7th. The best Porsche, Thomas Preining, is 8th. Ricardo Feller's always going to be the best Audi because he's the only one these days. 9th place, though. Decent effort. He's looked sharp this weekend. Yeah. And, I mean, looked really good at the start of the session. The BMW's also doing pretty well. Already Rast in particular, he's 5th quickest. Marco Wittmann a bit slower in 12th place. Gilles Magnou, two Mercedes, two Aston Martins running together, and Gilles Magnus has just gone and set his personal best time so far. Still a bit behind his teammate Nicola Bert though, but he's just done a 1:22.079 on board with Arjun Maini, who is on a personal best lap here. He's just gone ahead of Ben Green up to 20th. Best lap's a 1:21.7. His teammate Fabio Scherer has done a 1:21.9. A cacophony of noise as he gets on the power coming out of the last corner. Here we go, over the line. This should be an improvement for Arjun. The Indian driver does go up the order a bit into 15th place. Only 0.7 of a second off the fastest time.
I'd be happy. Sorry.
No, so Marco Wittmann just kissing the dust there.
Yeah, there's a bit of a wild back end going on there. I'd be happy just to ride on board with Arjun Maini, to be quite honest. That noise, it is like watching a NASCAR race where it's just vibrating everything inside. Look how close to the wall Marco Wittmann gets out of turn 11, and then onto the tri-oval and into turn 12, out onto the pit straight. He's probably got his foot buried on it, so is this going to be an improvement for him? Marco Wittmann was in P12, he stays in P12, 1:21.058.
Championship leader Jordan Pepper on board with him now. He's 17th at the moment, but he's on a personal best lap here. Oh, he gets pretty close to the wall as well. Lamborghini fires up through the gears, up to 5th, up to 250 kilometers an hour. And over the line he goes. Where will that put him? 13th, just over half a second away from the fastest time. That's all, but it's only 13th. Luca Exler, his teammate, is on a personal best lap as well. And those two had a really good weekend at Zandvoort in the GT World Challenge. Running together, they finished on the podium twice there, a 2nd and a 3rd place at Zandvoort, which bodes quite well for our next DTM weekend, which is in, guess where, Zandvoort in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, couldn't be more different from here, really, could it? Right, here we come then. Out of the final turn, he'll come out onto the pit straight. So Luca Engsler into this lap, he was in 20th place. Surely this is going to be improvement. Yes, it is. So up to 13th at 1:21.097.
So as it stands, Jules Gounon is going to do that fairly rare thing of topping both free practice times. He's done it a bit earlier than he did in free practice 1, where he literally left it to the last couple of seconds. Did it with about 7 minutes to go this time. He's still got 3 minutes on the clock, but he's only 0.011 seconds quicker than Bender, 11 thousandths of a second. He's only 25 thousandths quicker than Lucas Auer, who's 3rd, and there's only 81 thousandths of a second. That's less than a 10th of a second between the top 4 drivers, with Max Powell currently in 4th place, on board with Arjun Maini, just for Brian.
Yes, I should really stop talking it now. Let's just listen to this growl. I mean, that's like a drug, isn't it? And he's not even on the straight yet.
It's a proper rumble. It's nothing like a V8, is there?
Right, here we go. This is the bit we want to hear. Ready? Right, let's hope we stay on board.
Absolutely great, that, isn't it? Over the line he goes.
Pure
21.2.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
He's got a quite good job there, I would say. I think he's quite enjoying life at the moment, Arjun Maini. His best season in the DTM last year. Really impressive.
I was mourning the day the Corvette C7 dropped out of the GT Masters Championship. We've got Mustang back in GT Masters this year as well, so we get to hear this twice on a race day, which is great news. But Arjun Maini seems to be really enjoying his time in this as well. It kind of feels like it's kind of set him alight a little bit. He's quite buzzing driving this car and helping HRT to develop it.
Yeah, 7th in the championship last year. A really good weekend at Red Bull Ring, didn't he? A pole and 2 podiums. His best weekend ever in the DTM as a whole weekend. But he was a bit disappointed because he didn't get the win because he was on pole position for one of the races. But Arjun, terrific driver, also a very, very nice guy as well. And great to see him having another go this season. Ben Green's had a bit of an improvement on the previous lap, so he's up to 19th already. He's about to come out of the last corner here in the all-red Ferrari 296. Over the line goes Ben Green, and that's a 121.7. He's on a longer run here as well, so that's about half a second away from his absolute best time in the session. Most of them are still out there. There's only Ben Durr, Max Powell, Thierry Vermeulen, Einjan Nguyen, Maurice Schuring and Tom Callender in the pits. So 3/4 of the field still on track with less than a minute to go now. Mirko Bortolotti on a personal best first sector, loses out a little bit in the second sector. Jack Aitken is the absolute best in sector 1. Ben Durr is the best in sector 2, which is the shorter sector. The longest sector is the last sector, sector 3, and Max Powell is quickest through that at 33 seconds. And Mirko Bortolotti, who is, was he 12th quickest in free practice 1, is only 23rd at the moment.
Wow.
But let's see if he can improve towards the end of the session. The reigning champion, the Italian, comes through over the line. He's going to get one more lap in at the end of this one as well before the time runs out. But only a 122.190. But I think he's doing a longer run here anyway. He's done more laps than most at 28. Busiest driver out there, or the busiest drivers, have been Einjan Nguyen, is in the pits now. He did 30 laps in the session as the flag comes out. And another driver that's done 30 laps is, Maurice Schuring. Yeah, 30 laps for him as well, also in the pits. Oh, great shot that. That's in the middle part of the tri-oval as they come out of turn 5.
And 3 different brands, quickest in the 3 different sectors. You see how bumpy it is again. I mentioned it in FP1, how bumpy it is, especially into turn 6, coming off the tri-oval in towards turn 7. You see the back end of the car dancing around. You see the marbles there at the side of the track. It's a circuit that is not used very much throughout the year, and it's just got a little bit bumpy over the years. A different kind of challenge for these drivers. We look at Riccardo Fella on his... no, it's not Riccardo, beg your pardon, it's Mirko Bortolotti. There's not a sign underneath it or anything, but it's Mirko Bortolotti. So 23rd for him at the moment, a 121.682. It doesn't look like this is going to be an improvement, but maybe he's got the bigger picture in mind as the checkered flag is out.
Yeah, just looking at the speed trap time, 223 kilometres an hour. The best is 227, I think, René Rast in the BMW. So, we'll have a look through the data, but that was definitely the issue at Oschersleben that the team was saying. A couple of kilometres down on the Grasser Lamborghinis and about 5 kilometres an hour down on the Mustangs and the BMWs at Oschersleben. So it's going to be a double delight for Jules Gounon.
Wow.
Quickest in free practice 1, quickest in free practice 2, and impatient already for that first win in the DTM, a championship that he's loved and followed and wanted to be in for a very, very long time, and he would be overjoyed if he could be a race winner in this championship. And if he's not a race winner by the end of this year, I'll sleep outside, because he's absolutely flying, isn't he?
We'll put the tent up. No, I think he really is. You know that it's not a case of if, but when that race win comes. And I've said it before, you know, when Jules Gounon joins a championship, most people quake, because he does tend to win championships. An incredible driver, very, very rapid, and as you've said already, has dreamt of being in DTM for a long time. He's not here to make up the numbers. He is a championship contender and a championship challenger from the get-go.
New compound tyres proving to be pretty adequate as well, so that's a 10th quicker, that 120.595, than the quickest time we had on the free practice sessions last year. I know different conditions, etc., but if they're already doing 120.595s, what's the qualifying lap record around here? 119.9 is the qualifying lap record at this track, so I think that's definitely within their grasp if the conditions and the temperatures and everything are right tomorrow. But Jules Gounon ends free practice 2, top of the times with the quickest lap of the day. And Ben Durr, another excellent effort. The McLaren, second quickest. I know it's only free practice, but that will buoy his and the team's confidence. 120.606 for Ben Durr, second quickest. Lucas Auer, third. Max Powell, fourth, and only 81 thousandths of a second between the top 4. René Rast was fifth, Maro Engel sixth, Jack Aitken seventh, and then Thomas Preining, Riccardo Fella, and Thierry Vermeulen rounded out the top 10 in that 45-minute session. and their last chance to get set for qualifying tomorrow, which is at the earlier than normal time of 9:05. The reason for that is that the race tomorrow starts earlier than normal. That gets underway an hour earlier than our normal start time of 1:30. Tomorrow's race starts at 12:30. It's due to live television coverage of the Hockey World Finals. That's why they've moved the time. Sunday will be back to normal, but an early start for these drivers and teams and the commentators tomorrow morning. Andrew Guin was 11th quickest. Jordan Pepper, the championship leader, 12th. Marco Wittmann, 13th. Luca Exler was 14th. And then it was Maurice Schuring, 15th. Fabio Scherer in 16th. I've seen a lot of Nicky Tim today. He was back in 17th. Tom Callender, 18th. Arjun Maini in the Mustang, 19th. And Ben Green was 20th in that session, ahead of Timo Glock, who was complaining of her car, which was very, very nervous. And work still to be done, even though he's got a different car for this weekend. So that is Friday complete. Delays to the start of the day and what turned out to be a very busy afternoon for the drivers and teams. Hopefully they've learned everything they need to learn ahead of qualifying tomorrow morning. And of course, round 3 of the championship gets underway and round 4 will be on Sunday. That's it from Brian Oliver and me, Chris Hartley. Thanks for joining us. Good night.